Good morning students, welcome to social studies class. Children, today let's study history second chapter, the expansion of British power in India. Before we study the chapter, we will just revise the first chapter, the modern periods. When we study the modern period, we have seen that what is called history. What is called history? History, we say, that is the study of the past. When we study the past, we could know about the social or the cultural life of the people, and we could know the political or social or economic development of the people. Then we have seen that is there are three periods mainly: ancient period, medieval period and modern period. Modern period, that is connected with some events or there are some features. We have seen that is scientific progress, industrialization, colonization, urbanization, etc. So today let's study how the Britishers came to India and started their power in India. What are the reasons? How we became under the shoes of the Britishers? What are the reasons? How they got the chance to come to India and take power? The chapter, the beginning, the introduction of the paragraph, it is telling that our India, the 17th century, India was very rich country. That is why so many attracted to our country. They came to trade with India. First of all, they asked permission, that is, see, many European countries began to form trading companies. What did they do? They came to trade with India and they formed trading companies. For betterment of their trade, they began to start trading companies. The East India Company was one of them. It was formed in England 1600 after getting a charter from Queen Elizabeth I to trade with the East. Similarly, many countries also came to India. Then it was the first beginning of Britishers starting their power in India. Now we will see what are the reasons. First one, imported trading companies in India. From the 17th century onwards, trading companies from Portugal, Holland, England, France and Denmark. Which are the places? Portugal, Holland, Denmark and England, France began to set up their base in India. They established their trading centers in different parts of the country, mainly in the coastal areas. Why the coastal area they selected? Means it was easy for them for going and coming, all these things. That's why the centers or their factories they kept near the coastal area. The centers were called factories. You know that now what it is called factories. We also have different factories around us. So there is something product in manufacturing. But here we could not see anything that is production. But not because of anything was manufactured there, but because the officials of the companies were called factories. Officials of the companies were called officials. These factories consisted of offices and godowns. So they started their factories near the coastal area. It was called factories. Then it consisted offices and they stayed there. It was the residential place for them, and they kept their goods and whatever there is their all business they have found the place in the factories. Over the time, some factories were fortified. While going the trade, some are very clever. They kept their eye on the wealth of the India and trade rivalry among European companies. European companies trade. Rivalry means opposition. An intense rivalry and intense opposition occurred among the European countries for obtaining their control over Indian markets. What are the items there? Spices, cotton, silk, indigo, salt, peter, etc. All of them wanted to buy these goods at low price in India, and they sell them in huge amount their own countries. It was the occasion for them. It was the chances for. Since the profits from trade were huge. Each European country viewed for a greater share of the trade. So they want to expand they want to develop their trade. That is why what did they do? However, the quantum of trade was not sufficient. Quantum means daily whatever they are collecting, it was not sufficient for them. It was not sufficient to sustain all the come. Slowly they gradually the profits, the property was not sufficient for them, the place and everything. So the profits earned by them began to shrink. Whatever they got it, that began to shrink. Shrink means first it was a small amount. The only way to increase the profit was by eliminating the competitors and ensuring a trade monopoly. Trade monopoly means what it is? Monopoly means that is a group of people or one person dominates the company or their power. The companies which had the support of their respective government set out to do just that. The first beginning, what it is, they built their own armies and were not averse to using force to achieve their goals. So how was the beginning of this power? Means they asked the permission to keep some armies to watch their factories. In course of time, the Portuguese, the Dutch and the Dane were ousted from the Indian trade. The English and French became the key players dominating trade between India and Europe. When the East India Company got permission to keep the armies, the clever people, what did they do? They keep more armies with them. They strengthen the trade. That is why they were ready to fight with any people. The first time they are fighting with the French people, Anglo-French rivalry. 3 times they fight each other. It was take place in the state of Tamil Nadu. That is why these wars known as Carnatic Wars. Nearly 20 years they fight each other. 1744 to 1763. At last what happened? The English people seized the French people. It came to end of the French people. This was the way for establishing the power in India. Next we see the beginning of British expansion in India. The British people, they want to capture our India. That is why what did they do? They were looking for the chance. After the death of the Aurangzeb, the Mughal emperor, those who came after all were weak. That's why they get some kind of concession to make the trade, exporting and importing without paying duty, all these things. But the people, they did not give any kind of money. That's why the Bengal Nawab, he has lost lot of money and enormous loss of revenue to Bengal also, resulting without paying money. What happened in India? Lost some kind of money in that small part. In the first half of the 18th century, the conflict between Nawabs. So these people, these East India Company people, already under their custody, so many armies are there. That's why they, with more strength, they are ready, pre-planned to ready to fight with the Nawabs. At that time, 3 Nawabs were there who were there. Their Murshid Qali Khan, Shujauddin and Aliwardi Khan. They tried to keep the officials in the company in check. The Aliwardi Khan laid 2 conditions which the company had to obey or lose its fight to trade in Bengal. When the Nawab, they are asking or they were requesting them to do this and that, they were not obeying. They were ready to fight with the company. However, had by this time become very strong after the military success against the French. When the English people, they were first, they fight with the French people. That is why now they are more confident and courage to fight with anyone. Now they are looking for the Indian territory. So how they want to capture it? Now small part of the Bengal, afterwards the Mysore, Punjab, small part first they want to expand. That's why when the Siraj Uddaula became the Nawab of the Bengal, the matter became worse. In 1756 he asked the company to remove all the fortifications. So these Nawab asked them to remove whatever there is, they are advantaged. So the company refused to do so. So the Nawab sent his troops, occupied the company's factories in Calcutta. So that is why Nawab sent the armies to fight against them. Then what happened? The British officials were alarmed at this development. They decided to depose Siraj-ud-Dawla and install a puppet Nawab in his place. This resulted a war. What happened? That time they take advantage of keeping a weak person, that is we see Siraj Uddaula, and instead another Nawab they want to keep. The place of Siraj Uddaula they want to keep another person. That is why they can do, or they can, whatever they plan they can make it. Other things we will see next class.